Russia blows its top at the US after Russia blew up one of its satellites. Now we know we had an incident at the ISS on November 11 when the ISS had to maneuver by blowing the thrusters on one of the Russian segments in order to change the position of the ISS over our atmosphere because of the fact that space debris was coming into them. So now we have this going on. There seems to be a lot going up there. Russia has reacted in fury, dubbing the US a threat in space after the Kremlin was slammed for blowing up a satellite. Now there's over 300 million pieces of space debris up there. A lot of them are over 4 inches long. Now fears of a full-blown space row soaring after Russia confirmed that they were responsible for a weapons test that blew up a satellite. It caused over 1,500 pieces of space debris to be sent flying past the International Space Station, the ISS, in a near miss that forced the American astronauts to flee into their spacecraft. But while the US were furious at Russia's firing of a missile into their own satellite, warning that they will be held to pay, Moscow has accused the US of hypocrisy. Sergei Lavrov, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia Federation, said at a press conference in Moscow that there are no facts behind claims that they endangered the ISS. Well, look, when you're blowing up things, how do you know where these pieces are going to? And these are all these satellites up there. We know that Elon Musk has put up, 12,000, 20,000. He claims he's going to put up at least 40,000 internet satellites up there. But there's a lot of debris up there as well. Now, Lavrov claimed that the US was the real threat in space and that they have ignored Russian and Chinese proposals to discuss a possible agreement on weapons in space. Chinese officials have in the past expressed growing concern that US missile defense and space control plans could lead to a costly arms race. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. Now, US officials claimed that the test Russia conducted Monday had generated a debris field in low Earth orbit that, of course, endangers the International Space Station, and that it will pose a hazard to space activities in the future, obviously. Now, the Kremlin, despite this, claimed that the 1,500 pieces of space debris from the test was not a threat and will not create any future risk to space stations and satellites in orbit. Well, that is not true. I mean, look, all these pieces up there, we said I made a video just the other day, over 300 million pieces. And over, 15 million that were over 4 inches in length. Now, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson said in a statement following this incident, he said, due to the debris generated by the destructive Russian anti-satellite ASAT test, the ISS astronauts and cosmonauts undertook emergency procedures for safety. Like Secretary Blinken, I'm outraged, she said, by this irresponsible and destabilizing action. With its long and storied history in human spaceflight, it's unthinkable that Russia would endanger not only the American and international partner astronauts on the ISS, but also their own cosmonauts. Space Command Chief U.S. Army General James Dickinson said Russia demonstrated a deliberate disregard for the security, safety, stability, and long-term sustainability of the space domain for all nations. He said the space debris caused by Russia's missile test will continue to pose a threat to activities in outer space for years to come. It will put satellite and space missions at risk, as well as forcing many collision avoidance maneuvers. Can you imagine? I mean, you're sending spacecraft up there, and you don't even know if they're going to make it with all this debris up there. But Moscow claims that the U.S. has anger, and the U.S.'s anger is unwarranted, denying that this is the case. Now, if you could believe that. While Russia and China appeared to blame the U.S. for conflict in space, NATO have expressed their dismay, of course, at Russia's move. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that it's concerning when Russia destroys space satellites and capabilities because it can destroy tools used for navigation on Earth. Satellites, it is, when they do that. Mr. Stallman also called the move reckless, fears that future holds for Russia and the U.S. up in space. He said it's created a lot of debris. It was a reckless act by Russia. It demonstrates that Russia is developing new systems. And while Moscow denies claims that space debris posed threats, experts disagree, of course. Jonathan McDowell, astrophysicist at Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, said that the buildup of space debris, of course, is concerning. He said there's a real concern that we're getting a real environmental problem in outer space. Commercial activity is not being regulated adequately. It's happening faster than regulation. He says, largely US and Europeans, but even China now is starting to have a true commercial space sector, but it's a bit of a wild west out there. Moscow moves comes as tensions between Russia and US and its allies heating up down below here on Earth. But of course, the Earth heating up, the Earth rows have nothing to do with what's up there in space. I mean, up there in space, all these things cost millions and billions of dollars, and you can't have all this garbage up there. Now, last week, Washington briefed NATO members about the imminence of Russia invasion of Ukraine, and, all this is going on. Now, there's also been months of tension boiling between NATO and Russia over Crimea still. Some suspect the incident in space is not unrelated to the conflict in Ukraine. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, the thing in space is very, very, very serious. And this is by Jacob Paul on Express UK. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support.